Hey guys, so I just got back from the movie theater from seeing Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman. I know probably a majority of the people maybe watching this or seeing the title are going, "What the fuck is that?" To which I will reply, For about a week ago, I didn't even know what the hell this fucking was either. I had no idea of this existence. I'd come across the title a few times, but never heard of it. Other than that, and I pretty much dismissed it because I was like, "Oh, this probably be something that's not going to be at our movie theater." It looked like an indie, from what the posters and stuff looked like some kind of indie movie that probably wouldn't be coming to my theater. And then, to my surprise, it did. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, well, I guess what the fuck is this? And I was seeing it was getting good reviews, and I'm like, all right, what the fuck is this then? And I watched the trailer, and I'm like, okay. I read the plot synopsis. I'm like, okay. It's basically the story of the creator of the Wonder Woman comic books. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And that he had an interesting life, and I'm like, all right, that doesn't sound too bad. Like I said, I mean, the story kind of sounded weird and kind of a little off, colored and normal, but I'm like, I've seen a lot of weird shit this year, so I fucking saw Mother, and Elle, and yeah, I'm sure there's nothing in this fucking movie that'll shock me. And to my surprise, this was a pretty damn good movie. I don't know where the fuck this thing came from. It's an interesting movie that I don't think a lot of people know about, and that's a sad thing because this is actually kind of an interesting story. It just depends on how much of it is actually true, which I'll get into later on in the review. But whatever story this movie, the story that this movie was telling was pretty goddamn interesting, and it was kind of unique. It's a movie about Luke Evans plays Professor William Marston. I forget, he was a Harvard professor who, it's just like, give you the plot synopsis, brief plot synopsis. He was a Harvard professor who studied. He studied psychology. He taught psychology with his wife, who's played by Rebecca Hall, and they teach at this Harvard University, at the version of Harvard University, where they're looking for an assistant, a student assistant, who they find themselves both attracted to, and the student is also attracted to them, and then they start slowly but surely forming a very promiscuous relationship with each other, like having sex with each other, having three-ways constantly, having some weird fucking sex at some points. And of course, this is the 1920s, and also this movie takes place from the 1920s to the 40s, and it's frowned upon, of course. And in the meantime, basically, through his own experiences and his own studies the theories that Professor Marston has created over his career, he ends up developing the Wonder Woman character. I guarantee you never thought a movie about a polygamous relationship would be the story for the inspiration behind Wonder Woman, because I sure as hell didn't. That was kind of interesting, because like a lot of the themes that Wonder Woman stands for, and being a role model for women and empowering women and stuff like that, or from his own personal experiences with this weird relationship that was pretty frowned upon. That's all I'm gonna kind of get into with story, but it's interesting. Luke Evans plays the Professor William Marston. He's fucking great. He was Gaston, if you don't know who he is, in the recent Beauty and the Beast. He's fucking great. He's charming and just cool and collective as ever, and like he's this really smart, intelligent professor who has his own little beliefs that he sticks to and is true to, and even if they are very unconventional and against the times, and he was ahead of his time. This guy was ahead of his time. Like I said, a lot of the themes that were in the original comics of Wonder Woman were kind of like Bondism, and like it was basically a comic book and promoting the empowerment of women and showing their dominance that they could have over men in a men-driven world. And of course, nobody really liked that. I knew about the comic book banning in the 50s and the 40s and 50s, particularly with Tales from the Crypt and how that was banned in, like, you know, not until probably about the 90s or 80s when the TV show came along did we start seeing the reappearance of those comic books, reissuing of those comic books, which I had some of those. But like I didn't know Wonder Woman was one of those because it was pretty much frowned upon, like some of the stuff. So even then, looking at the original comic book panels, you're like, man, there's some pretty risque shit in this for like 40s and 50s. Even nowadays, like wow, probably nowadays you can get away with that shit. But Rebecca Hall is fucking great as this. As his wife, who's also a professor, who has lesbian feelings for her student, along with the sexual feelings for the student assistant, and she's like really good, like really goddamn authoritative, and like doesn't take no shit from anybody, especially her husband or the student. It's really like she is pretty goddamn good in this thing. Their whole relationship between all three of them, and the girl who played the student, I forget what her name is. I would bother me to look it up, but she's been in like a lot of like different movies I've seen before, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen her before in this and that. It's like that's where I recognized her from. And like one of the most ironic things is that she was the ex-girlfriend in that 50 Shades of Grey sequel that came out earlier this year. That crazy ex-girlfriend. That's who she is. And I'm like, this is a movie that's kind of about Bondism and the same kind of themes of fucking 50 Shades of Grey, but done fucking a lot better. And it's starring with somebody that was in one of the 50 Shades of Grey movies. That's kind of funny if you really think about it. Like I said, I would have never fucking put I don't know the history of Wonder Woman that much, and I'm like, I never knew half that shit about the Wonder Woman. I could believe it. Like they were showing like original comic book panels. I'm like, yeah, I can see why that would be kind of controversial back in the day. Yeah, but like I said, yeah, like she's really good in this. Like I said, the student, goddamn, I forget her name, what her name was, but she's really good as this. Seems like kind of an innocent girl, but she's kind of has a little perverse side to her. And when she meets these two professors, she kind of gets let out. And like I said, it's all frowned upon. And they have kids together. Like Rebecca Hall has kids with Luke Evans, and she has kids with Luke Evans, and it's like. And, like, they try to, like, at one point, fabricate a story that goes off pretty well for a few years, that they're just, like, the girl who's playing the student is just somebody that Rebecca Hall and Luke Evans took in, and that her previous husband had just died, and so they took her in so that she had a place to stay. Well, of course, spoiler, it kind of gets out that there's a little bit more. In one of the stupider scenes, like, all they had to do was fucking lock the door. I mean, I know this is the 50s and 40s, and, it was more innocent time, but I'm like, all you had to do was lock the door. You don't want if you're going to do certain activities, maybe you don't want people to come in and walk in on your shit. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of stupid on their part. It also got Connie Britton from Friday Night Lights, who's in Nashville, who is the leader of the. She's in like only probably about 10 minutes of this movie. She's the leader of the parents' council that's trying to put a ban on comic books, and basically rating Luke Evans the riot act for all the shit he puts in the Wonder Woman comic books. One of those conservative Christian fucking people that unfortunately are still around today, but they're not as. It's not as like they still try to ban shit, but like it's kind of funny like that what they considered really raunchy and terrible for kids back then, and then you see what the shit we got nowadays. Like I said, that and Tales from the Crypt, like it's crazy, like how those were pretty much banished, and they even explained at the end of the movie that Wonder Woman for a while there had her powers taken away from her, like in all these publications, and then who was it? Gloria Steinem brought them back in the 70s. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. Never knew that story. Like they took out all the sexualized stuff of it, like in the 40s and 50s. I was like, that's interesting. I was like, yeah, like it's kind of like a unique. I said I might never look at the Wonder Woman ever the same again. I'll say that. So now you know maybe where some of the basis of that character came from. You always kind of wondered if there's like a little bit of sexual parts of like that. I mean, like her tying guys up or her being tied up, and it's like now you kind of know that, yeah, that was supposed to be kind of sexual. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Now the part with this movie where kind of like I found out before I saw this movie that this movie's kind of gotten some controversy because the descendants of William Marston and them have disputed this movie a lot. Too much. I'm like, as I was watching this movie, I was wondering, I'm like, how much of this is real and what isn't? Because Hollywood fabricates every goddamn true story to make it like a little bit more spicier. They kind of made it out like the lesbian relationship between the wife and the student is kind of blown out of proportions in this movie. That's what it seemed like the main thing that they were bitching about. And I don't know. It's like like at the same time, there's a part in this movie where they kind of like try to put on an act that like they're not, doing this kind of stuff. So maybe their kids believe that for all these years, or their grandkids, or I don't know. But maybe I don't know what the truth is. I'm kind of, I guess we'll never know, because I think all these characters, all these people are dead. Especially Marston died like 1947. I know the girl, I think the student lived to be 100 or something like that. That's like crazy. And the wife did die in like 80s, sometime in the 80s it said. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know what is true and what isn't. It's like, it's kind of interesting. I'm sure Hollywood fabricated a lot of shit. Probably even the part, like, it is kind of funny, like this guy also, he was the guy who basically invented the lie detector. I don't think he got credit for it because of his stuff that was going on in his personal life. And he, and like, it's kind of funny, like, he used the lie detector in the comic books for the lasso of truth, and it's like, that's kind of clever. I guess that kind of makes some sense. And like, you find out the origins of the bracelets and like the crown and like the uniform, which that was interesting. But yeah, I recommend this movie. It's an interesting sit. I'm sure not a lot of people are. Like I said, I was the only one in the theater. I said, this is like the second time in over a week that I was the only one in the theater. The other time was in Blade Runner. That was kind of funny. So yeah, I recommend it. It was fine. it was interesting. Like I said, I'm interested more now to hear what the true story behind it and what was fabricated and what wasn't. So, like I said, I'm kind of interested in knowing that now. So that's as far as Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman. I got, like I said, Foreigner, Hush, The Babadook, Only the Brave, and Snowman. I'm gonna probably be doing this week, so I got a lot of fucking movies to review. So, yay! So until then, I'll talk to you guys.